Hi students, this is Mr. Rank here, showing you your next lesson that you'll be learning. What I'd like you to do right now is take a moment and just have your notebooks ready. Write down the title and the objective here. Alright, so today our objective is for you to graph circles. So circles are not functions, but they are equations that you can graph on a graphing calculator. A circle actually has two functions, but we won't talk about that now. We'll talk about it later. Anyways, here are the steps for you. Identify the parts of the standard equation of a circle. Identify the center. Identify the radius and graph. So, remember a circle. If I had a circle, let's say I just drew a circle here. Okay. The circle has a center, right? I don't know if you remember this from geometry or even from middle school. There's a center here, and then the line that goes from the center to the edge is called a radius, okay? So the whole way across is called the diameter. Anyways, we could figure out, or we could graph anything, any circle by knowing its center. And our center we mark by H and K. So in our equation you have an H here and a K here. We can mark that out. And you could, if you know all this information, then you can graph the circle, okay? So write this down for a moment. Alright, so we're going to move on here. So the circle is all the points, the X's and Y's all the way around. So the circle is all those points. So we're just focusing on the circle itself. Okay, so we're going to move on. I'll show you how to do a couple of these, and then you'll practice a few on your own, and then we'll be done with this. Okay, so number one. So the first thing I want to do is figure out, since I'm graphing a circle, I see it's in the circle form. We have x plus 3 squared right here. And then I got y minus 5 halves squared right here. 5 halves is like 2.5. And then we got 16 right here. So I know that my h is supposed to say like x minus h squared. So this is really like saying minus a negative 3. So our h is actually going to be negative 3, right? Because this is like saying minus a negative 3. And then our k here, we have 5 halves. It should say y minus k here squared. And this should be like minus a negative 5 halves, right? So 5 halves is like saying negative 2.5, right? Okay, so that means my center of my circle is going to be at negative 3 and negative 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to go to my graph here, and I'm going to start at the origin, and I'm going to go to negative 3 and then down to negative 2 halves. So we're going to go starting here, negative 1, 2, 3, and then down 1, 2.5. There should be a point right there. I'm going to plot my center here. Okay, my radius now. Remember that the last part of my equation, if you remember from the last slide, it says r squared here, which means our radius isn't this last number, it's the square root of it, right? So if this last number is r squared, our radius is just r. So how do I get rid of a squared? I take a square root. So going back to this problem we're working on, if this is supposed to be r squared, then what is r? Well, 16 is equal to r squared, so we'll write r squared is equal to 16. Take the square root of both sides, you get r is equal to 4. So our radius is 4. So the way we work this out is you go from your center, we're going to go up 4, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, it's on the 1 halves. We're going to go down 4 from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot a point. And then we're going to go right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, plot a point here. And then we're going to go left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, plot a point here. And we'll draw a circle as best as we can by hand. Okay, and that's how you graph number 1. Now check Desmos, check a graphing calculator. Make sure you did this correctly. Plug it in, practice putting it in. Okay, let me do it again on number 2. So number 2 is a little weird because we have x squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 25. So this first term is kind of weird because it just says x squared, but isn't this the same thing as saying x minus 0 squared, right? If I subtract anything or 0 from x, it doesn't really change x. So we could even rewrite this as saying y as plus y minus 1 squared, which is equal to 25. Okay, so our center is going to be 0 because it's 0, 1. So we're going to write that down as our center. Here is 0, 1. And then our radius is this last number. Remember, this is our r squared. So if r squared is equal to 25, take the square root of both sides, you get r is equal to 5. Right? So we go to 0, 1, plot a point. We're going to go, from here we're going to go up 5 for our radius. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plot a point there. We're going to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down here, plot a point. Right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, plot a point, and then left 5 also. Okay? And then what we're going to do is draw a nice circle as best as you can by hand. Kind of a fat circle. That's okay. Alright? And that's the basic idea, okay? So take a moment to write one of these down if you like. Otherwise, if you feel confident, you could just move on. I think you'll do just fine on this. It's very simple. So let's go to the next slide here. What I'd like you to do is pause the video here and try these 4 out without a graphing calculator. Just sketch them out. If you don't have graphing paper, just do a rough sketch. Be able to identify the center and radius. So I'll give you, I'm going to ask you to pause the video here. Okay, and here are your answers. Alright, so check your work here. And that's it. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll do some more on circles. I'm gonna quiz you on this once we come in the class, so make sure you're ready. Alright, thank you so much, kids.